It has happened. A serving United States Air Force Brigadier General, a senior strategist with direct access to America's most sensitive war plans, is now in Tehran. This is not a kidnapping. This is not a negotiation. It is a defection of catastrophic proportions, broadcast live on Iranian state television. The question is no longer if an American general betrayed his country, but what war-losing secrets about U.S. strike capabilities, stealth technology, and regional alliances did he just hand over to the enemy? At 0130 hours, Eastern Standard Time, the unthinkable became reality. The man on the screen, identified by Iranian press TV, is Brigadier General Marcus Thorn. For the past 18 months, he served as the Deputy Director for Strategy, Plans, and Policy at United States Central Command. He held one of the highest security clearances in the entire Department of Defense, and he has just requested political asylum from the Islamic Republic of Iran. Thorn was not a disgruntled officer in a forgotten outpost. He was a central node in the American military machine pointed directly at Tehran. A 30-year veteran, a command pilot with over 3,000 flight hours, many of them in the F-22 Raptor and the F-35 Lightning II. He was a key architect of contingency plans for the entire Persian Gulf. He knew everything. The Pentagon is in chaos. An initial statement, released just 45 minutes ago, referred to Thorn only as unaccounted for, following a diplomatic trip to Oman. That statement is now obsolete. It's a lie. Thorn didn't get lost. He walked away. He crossed a line. And he took a library of national secrets with him. His televised statement was a carefully crafted piece of propaganda, denouncing what he called decades of American economic terrorism and military imperialism in the Middle East. He spoke for 17 minutes. He was calm. He was coherent. He did not appear to be under any duress. This was a choice, a deliberate act of treason. So what, exactly, has been compromised? The damage assessment is just beginning, but early indications are apocalyptic for U.S. military posture in the region. First, and most critically, the war plans. Thorn was privy to the complete operational plan for any potential conflict with Iran. This includes the full target list, from nuclear facilities at Natanz and Fordow to IRGC command and control bunkers buried deep beneath Tehran. He knows the attack vectors, the ingress and egress routes for stealth aircraft, the specific squadrons assigned to the first wave of strikes. He knows the timeline, down to the minute. He knows the go, no-go criteria. He knows the weaknesses in Iran's air defense network that U.S. planners intended to exploit. And now, so do the Iranians. Every plan, every simulation, every carefully calculated move is now a worthless piece of paper. Then there is the technology. As a former stealth pilot and high-level strategist, Thorn understood the real-world capabilities of America's most advanced platforms. Not the public relations version, but the classified reality. He knows the true radar cross-section of the F-35 from every angle. He knows its infrared signature during different phases of flight. He knows the frequencies of its ESA radar and the exact vulnerabilities of its software and sensor fusion systems. He can tell Iranian engineers precisely how to tune their new Russian and Chinese-made radar systems to get a glimpse of a fighter that was, until today, considered all but invisible. Iran no longer has to guess at the F-35's weaknesses. General Thorn has handed them the operator's manual and the schematics. But the immediate strategic damage may pale in comparison to a terrifying new detail just emerging from intelligence circles. Sources within the CIA's Near East Mission Center are now indicating that Thorn's defection was not a sudden snap decision. Initial forensics on his recently accessed files show a pattern, a meticulous and systematic downloading of classified data over a period of weeks. This was not a man fleeing a crisis of conscience. This was an asset being activated. This raises the most chilling question of all. How did they turn him? Was it blackmail, a honey trap, or was it ideology? The Iranian Ministry of Intelligence, the MOIS, are masters of the long game. They are known for patient, multi-year operations to cultivate and recruit high-value assets. They have now executed the single greatest intelligence coup of the 21st century. The betrayal extends beyond military hardware and battle plans. It strikes at the very heart of U.S. diplomacy and intelligence gathering in the region. Thorn knew the location of every covert CIA station, from Dubai to Baku. He knew the names of key human intelligence sources inside the Iranian government. Those sources are now dead men walking. He knew the exact nature of intelligence sharing agreements with so-called partners like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and most critically, Israel. He can tell Tehran exactly what Mossad knows, what they've shared with Washington, and how they gathered that intelligence. The trust that held that fragile anti-Iran coalition together has been shattered. Every secret handshake, every back-channel communication, every shared piece of satellite imagery is now an open book to their worst enemy. The fallout is immediate. U.S. Naval Forces Central Command has just ordered all carrier strike groups in the Fifth Fleet to new, undisclosed positions in the Arabian Sea. All non-essential aerial patrols over the Persian Gulf have been suspended. They are operating blind, assuming that every move they make is now anticipated by the enemy. CENTCOM headquarters is in total lockdown. Every operational plan is being shredded. Every communication protocol is being rewritten. But it's a futile gesture. You cannot change geography. You cannot change the performance characteristics of your aircraft overnight. You cannot undo the knowledge that Thorn now possesses and has undoubtedly shared. The United States military in the Middle East has been rendered deaf, dumb, and blind in a single stroke. And just moments ago, a cryptic, high-priority signal was intercepted by the NSA listening station in Bahrain. It was a short, encrypted burst transmission originating from an Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps naval base near the Strait of Hormuz. The signal was authenticated using a deep-level encryption key, a key that intelligence analysts now confirm was accessible to General Marcus Thorn. It is believed to be go code, a prearranged signal, but a signal for what? We do not yet know. Every U.S. warship in the Fifth Fleet has just been raised to threat CON Charlie, but the attack never came. For 6 agonizing hours, the men and women of the Fifth Fleet held their breath, waiting for the swarm of Iranian fastboats, for the volley of anti-ship missiles, for the sky to light up with war. But there was only silence, a deep, unnerving quiet that was somehow more terrifying than open combat. The go code was not a trigger for an assault. It was something else, something far more insidious. And the first clue to its true purpose has just been found, not in the Persian Gulf, but 10,000 kilometers away, in a quiet, leafy suburb of Arlington, Virginia. A CIA counter-espionage team has just finished a forensic sweep of General Thorn's home. What they found has turned this crisis on its head. Buried deep within the encrypted partition of a personal hard drive, hidden amongst family photos and financial records, was a single video file. It was not a piece of stolen intelligence. It was a confession, or perhaps a manifesto. The video shows Thorn, not the decorated general in his dress blues, but a tired, haunted-looking man sitting in what appears to be a hotel room. He speaks directly to the camera. His voice is steady, but his eyes betray a man who has crossed a line from which there is no return. He does not apologize. He does not ask for forgiveness. He explains. He claims his defection was not an act of treason against the United States, but an act to save it from itself. He speaks of a shadow cabal within the Pentagon and intelligence community, a faction he calls the Heirs Initiative, who were finalizing plans for a limited, false flag attack on U.S. assets in the Gulf. An attack designed to be blamed on Iran, to provide the undeniable casus belli for a war they have been desperate to start for years. Was he a madman? A narcissist trying to justify the greatest betrayal in American history? Or is he telling the truth? The Pentagon has issued an immediate, vehement denial. A spokesperson has called the video the desperate propaganda of a traitor, parroting the talking points of his new Iranian masters. But the questions are now unavoidable. Why would Thorn, a man who had reached the absolute pinnacle of the military establishment, throw it all away? Ideology seems unlikely. His record is that of a hawkish patriot. Blackmail? Possible. But the sheer scale of his betrayal, the systematic downloading of everything, suggests a level of commitment that goes beyond simple coercion. His video provides a chillingly logical, if terrifying, answer. He believed war was imminent. A war based on a lie. He argues that by giving Iran America's playbook, he was not ensuring an Iranian victory, but creating a strategic stalemate. He made a U.S. attack so costly, so certain to fail, that even the most fanatical warmongers in the Heirs Initiative would be forced to stand down. He performed, in his own mind, a radical treasonous act of de-escalation. He sacrificed America's military superiority in the region to save it from a catastrophic war of choice. The go code? Intercepted by the NSA? It wasn't to attack the Fifth Fleet. Intelligence now believes it was a signal to a network of journalists and anti-war activists in the West. A signal to release specific, curated documents Thorn had leaked to them. Documents that would corroborate his story of a planned false flag event. The crisis is no longer just military. It is now a political firestorm of unprecedented scale. The White House is in lockdown, not from a foreign threat, but from an internal one. Every senior official in the National Security Council is now under a cloud of suspicion. Who is part of this RA's initiative? Does it even exist? Or has Thorn, with one brilliant, devastating move, simply seeded a virus of paranoia that will paralyze the American government for years to come? Allies are panicking. Israel's Mossad and Saudi Arabia's GID are demanding answers. They entered into intelligence sharing agreements based on a common enemy. Now they are forced to wonder if the real enemy was inside Washington all along. The very foundations of the Western alliance are cracking under the strain of one man's decision. And in the middle of this chaos, a junior NSA analyst working the late shift in Fort Meade has just flagged a ghost file, a travel directive for a small, unmarked Department of Defense executive jet. The flight was scheduled to depart from Andrews Air Force Base 3 weeks ago, its destination a remote U.S. airbase in the Omani Desert. The flight plan was logged, and then, hours later, scrubbed from the system, completely erased. But the analyst found a fragment of it in a cached server backup. The manifest listed only 4 passengers. 4 names that have just sent a jolt of ice water through the veins of the FBI team investigating Thorn's claims. They are 4 of the most notoriously hawkish, pro-war figures in the national security establishment. And their secret meeting took place just 48 hours before General Marcus Thorn began downloading the war plans. The manifest was not a smoking gun. It was a tactical nuke, detonated in the heart of Washington. Within hours, the story, leaked from a dozen sources at once, shattered the Pentagon's narrative. The dam of denial didn't just crack, it vaporized. The heirs initiative was real. The 4 men on that flight were its architects. Their plan, as Thorn had claimed, was to sacrifice an American destroyer and a few hundred American lives to ignite a war that would reshape the Middle East for a generation. Thorn wasn't a traitor parroting Iranian propaganda. He was the whistleblower of last resort. A constitutional crisis erupted. Resignations cascaded down from the highest levels of the Pentagon and the National Security Council. The arrests were just the beginning of a purge that would cripple the American intelligence apparatus for years. The public, fed a diet of imminent threat and patriotic fervor, was now confronted with an unthinkable betrayal from within. Trust in the institutions of government didn't just falter, it cratered. Internationally, the fallout was just as severe. Iran, once the pariah, suddenly held the moral high ground, a position it exploited with surgical precision on the world stage. America's allies, once lockstep in their condemnation of Thorn, were left in a state of horrified silence. The bedrock of trust had been pulverized. Who could they believe now? Every shared piece of intelligence, every joint operation, was cast under a dark shadow of suspicion. The Western alliance wasn't just cracked, it was broken. And Marcus Thorn? He was never seen in public again. No victory laps, no interviews, no further manifestos. He had fired his only shot, and it had hit its target with devastating accuracy. He remained, in the eyes of the law, a traitor who had given aid and comfort to the enemy. But to a growing, disillusioned segment of the world, he became something else. A tragic, paradoxical patriot who broke his oath to his government in order to uphold his oath to his country. He sacrificed his honor to prevent a war built on a lie. He became a ghost, a legend, a cautionary tale whispered in the corridors of power. The crisis Thorn averted was a war with Iran. The crisis he created was a war within America itself. A war against its own secrets, its own shadows, and its own willingness to deceive. He didn't save the country. Not really. He simply exposed the disease festering within it, leaving a shocked and wounded nation to decide for itself if a cure was even possible. The official story is never the whole story. To understand the conspiracies, the betrayals, and the unseen forces that shape our world, you have to go deeper. You have to break the front. Subscribe to breaking_the_front.